Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to Anime King 2. And today I'm going to be giving you part 23 of What If Naruto Had a New Dream That Would Change Everything. Remember to get this one to 100 likes as usual. Share this to all of your friends in your social media platform. And also guys, stay in tune for the new episodes coming over Anime King and Anime King 3. If you're new and this is the first time hearing my voice, yes, you're right. I have 3 channels, which I post on every single day. 3 what ifs a day guys, links will be down in the description for Anime King and Anime King 3 for you guys to go over there and click that red subscribe button and become part of the Anime King family. And thank you for all of your help and your support, and yeah, without further ado, what is to begin this new episode, start the intro. So, the last spot we left off, Azana was inside of Naruto, but given the small amount of chakra that her body had, she was literally feasting off his life force. As she wasn't doing it on purpose, she asked Naruto to release her so that she could be free and just disappear. After all, there's no use the both of them going down for this. But Naruto insisted no, as he would never do something like that. He will just have to find a way. So he absorbed all the nature energy. That would last him probably about a month. 2 weeks after that, Madara was pissed off. Yes, he was angry, as he wasn't able to find Uzumaki anywhere, as he was hiding. Deciding not to take the frontal approach, Madara decided to just try and scout him out by using the bird of a summoning path to scout the entire area to find Uzumaki. As he had the Gedo statue, he somehow blocked him off from summoning it, as Madara didn't know how. The Gedo statue was rigged with seals all over, so Madara could not summon it. As Naruto was making his plan, he went towards Konoha as Tsunade saw him, as he looked rather pale, the essence of his life force being dried up. As he told her what happened, and she was no worried about him, and not to mention Madara was alive. This was bad, as Naruto wanted to get Ayame and the others to safety, but the girls were Kunoichi and they didn't want to run. Ayame had her kid and her husband to worry about though, to get them to a safe location for a while, just in case Madara tried to come and take them as hostage. As Naruto asked Tsunade where was Orochimaru, as he really needed something, as she told him the last part they spotted him. It didn't take too long, a couple of days, as he found Orochimaru, as he saw him with a red head. As the redhead thanks Naruto, and she ended up passing out. As a power fluctuation because our senses were on high alert, Karin couldn't take it, as Naruto clashed with Orochimaru before placing 2 Harishing markers on 2 of his snakes. He sent them back to the summoning realm as they went, well, poof after he destroyed them. Not bad enough so that they wouldn't go back with the body. Now he had a way to get to the cave. Orochimaru ended up fleeing, leaving Karin behind, as Naruto took her. Making his way, he put up the barrier as he flared the power Madara was summoned. The man made his way directly there, as he told Naruto to hand over what he wanted. He tried to persuade Naruto by telling him that he could live in a dream world with that Kyuubi, as he tried to call her a lady just for Naruto's safety right here, so that the Uzumaki would hand over the Gedo statue. The both of them went into a quarrel back and front. It seems that Madara was somehow jealous of Hashirama, or that the man got Mito somehow, or something else, as Naruto couldn't quite figure him out. But the man was ready to attack, so Naruto simply flashed out of there, as he made his way. Karin woke up as she was confused. She was startled as she tried to run, but chains grabbed onto her, as Naruto just had to do something perverted at first. She started to get scared, but he told her that he was joking, as he asked her if she was a Uzumaki, the chakra between them. It was so similar. Well, his was a lot different now, but before, as she told him that she was a Uzumaki, yes. As Naruto decided that she was going to be staying with him from now on, think of him as an older brother to protect her. As Karin was surprised, they barely even know each other, and yet he was gonna do this for her. So yeah guys, it was basically that's what I thought you guys can switch across the playlist and check it out for yourself. So let's begin this new episode. Orochimaru woke up. He gave no indication towards his captor that he was awake, as he felt a burning sensation in his skull. As he was lying on grass, as he heard something crinkling beside him. Fire. It sounded like his captor was eating lunch. Orochimaru was confused. The last thing he remembered was facing off against the blonde, hopped up on sage mode and entering the gates, and that was not fun at all. He had ran a safe distance away before he had blacked out. The thing that Orochimaru did not know, the hierarchy marker that Naruto had placed on him, Naruto had teleported as Seal towards it. The tag was set to activate in any close proximity of chakra that did not belong to Naruto. The moment it picked up Orochimaru's chakra, it activated and knocked him unconscious. After that, it was rather easy to retrieve him. Ah, the wonders of the Hyuga Curse seal. That thing was proven to be remarkable. Yes, it was really useful. The seal that scrambled a person's nervous system and knocked them out was a thing of beauty. And he came up with it after diving into the Hyuga cage bird seal. You know, you can stop faking it now, Sleeping Beauty. I know that you're awake, said the gruff voice of Naruto. Orochimaru gave up as he opened his eyes, fully expecting Naruto to be on his feet staring at him. Instead of that, the man was sitting on a rock like he had not a single care in the world, munching on some barbecue meat. Karen was over to the side on another rock, but she was having more trouble chewing the meat. That wasn't really surprising when you consider the difference between their teeth. Want some, said Naruto, as he extended that stick with a meat on it towards Orochimaru. His first thought upon waking up here, as when he first faced off against Naruto, he thought the blonde was angry at him attacking him a few months ago. But it seems like the blonde was rethinking things, as he wondered if he wanted the alliance now, seeing that he too was a missing link. If that was the case, this is the strangest way to go about it that he has ever heard of before. I think I would like to know what is going on first, Orochimaru said, as he got to his feet. But Naruto wasn't showing any concern at all, and that was making him rather nervous. No one was that confident around him, unless they were completely insane or they had absolute power. And besides, Naruto odd quirks. He wasn't that insane. Well, if you like to know about recent events, all you have to do is look at yourself in the mirror. Well, the pool of water to be precise, seeing that we don't really have a mirror. As he ate the piece of meat that he was offering to Orochimaru earlier, keeping a focused eye on the blonde, Orochimaru moved towards a nearby body of water and looked into it. His own face looked back at him, but now there was something else added to his forehead. The design was similar to what he saw on the branch member of the Hyugas, but not really the same. Instead of two lines forming a cross, it had four intercepting lines forming a snowflake. Other than that, it was exactly the same. What is this? What have you done? Orochimaru hissed at Naruto. In his anger, he didn't notice the seal on his forehead start to throb in warning, as he started to think how to attack Naruto when his ability to think about that was taken away suddenly. A sudden white haze of agony erupted inside his skull. The pain was so unbearable that all of his senses were forced to shut down, leaving nothing but agonizing pain. And then it was over. Orochimaru lay on the ground, gasping at his throat, as it felt like he was screaming, but he did not remember screaming. After forcing himself to get back on his knees, he looked at the blonde once again, with a grim expression on his face. Next to him, Karen was looking a bit disturbed by the short, torturing session. What have I done? I placed an enhanced, perfected birdcage seal on you, and I made you my bitch. The seal is stuck to you so firmly that not even switching bodies will help you from it. Additionally, it let me know your intention and thoughts if I focus hard enough, so don't think you can get out of this by stabbing me in the back. Oh, and also, if you do succeed in killing me, the seal will kill you as well, said Naruto. Why have I done this? Because my wife is slowly dying and taking me with her. Your knowledge might be useful to help me save her, but you can't be trusted. So I use that seal as a safeguard in case you try to betray me. He might not like that seal, but he was going to use everything at his disposal to save Xana no matter what. It wasn't a seal that you can use on a lot of people because all their thoughts, their intention in your head was going to be maddening. But it was perfect use on one person. The Reaper Death seal communication part was fitting for the seal, which he integrated with. Orochimaru didn't know what to respond to that, but he did realize Naruto was looking older than he should. His mind and body was still in pain from everything. He wasn't able to react much, but there was something that surprised him. Your wife? As he was unaware that the blonde was married, nor could he figure out how the wife dying would be affecting him. The Kyuubi, said Naruto. For once, Orochimaru was shocked, speechless. But we'll talk about that later, said Naruto. Right now I'm going to Ryuko Cave and steal all the natural energy that they have. If they protest, I'll wipe them out. Before Orochimaru could even look properly surprised, Naruto activated Seal and knocked him out. He didn't need him to try anything while he was gone. Time skip. The eyes of the white snake sage peer into Naruto's eyes as Naruto stared back. After his unannounced arrival, he was swiftly attacked. The snakes were fast and strong, but they didn't have any hands to use ninjutsu, and they couldn't multiply themselves and divide themselves like the slugs. All they have was speed, strength, and a poison in their fangs. And that can't affect Naruto. Poison was one thing that his healing factor always had a weakness against, deadly poisons. But with Senju enhancing his body and Zana chakra inside of him now, the poison would even come close. Naruto was a small target than the snakes, but he was stronger than them, even Manda. And also his chains, so he had no real trouble fending them off. He had killed several, but he wasn't the first to attack. Manda had found himself slayed before the white snake called them off. Now he was surrounded all around by all of the surviving members of the snake clan, while he stood in front of the leader. Why are you here, this spoiler? We heard what you did to the toads. Have you come to do the same here? The great snake asks, its tone rather hissing. Naruto raised an eyebrow at the name that snake had called him. And also, did they keep communication with the toads? Well, aren't you clever? Yes, I've come to the natural energy of this place. Have you not taken enough from the toads to satisfy you? The white snake asks, anger in his voice. Normally it would have been, but the situation has changed. Enough talking. Either you will let me do what I have to do, or attack me. Either way, I'm going to get what I want. The white snake sage looked down at the intruder in the realm. As he noticed the grey hair and the older appearance, he looked older than he should. Probably the main reason why he's here. All of these snakes were willing to survive even though they know this foe would slay them. But the white snake needed to make them survive in order to pass on the word. What the Toad Elders fear had came to pass. We can't stop you. Take what you came for and leave, the snake said. Time skip. And now that I took all that natural energy from the cave, I have about 2 months to live before I die. Well, that is if I find more natural energy to store. He just finished explaining everything that happened to Orochimaru and Karen. After all, Orochimaru could not help him if he did not have all of the relative information. Orochimaru's scowl, utterly detesting his current situation. To think that he, Orochimaru of the Sannin, would be forced to help Naruto save his demonic wife, and there was not a damn thing that he could do about it. He couldn't even find words to say how much he hated it. Even calling himself an unwilling assistant was generous. Slave will be more accurate. Don't scowl so much, princess. If we find a way to save Zana, I'll remove the seal. I'll even teach you how to absorb natural energy to boost your life force. As a payment for helping me. The seal is only a safeguard because you're a slimy bastard who can't be trusted. Orochimaru perked up a bit at that, as Naruto came back from the cave, looking stronger and more vital. All hints of old age gone from him. For something like that, he would have burned down 10 orphanage. And Naruto has always seemed like a very straight up guy. And this was more important to him than anything else. Perhaps there was upside to this situation after all. And it was like he had a whole lot of choice in the end anyway. What about me, big brother? Said Karen, saying the last part with a blush. As Naruto was insistent on being called big brother. And if he wasn't, he would retaliate somehow. In perverted means. Well, what can you do, said Naruto. I'm a very powerful chakra sensor. And I know some medical ninjutsu, she said. That might come in handy to see if anything is happening with the Gedo statue. And the medical ninjutsu remind me of another thing. Orochimaru, do you know any other way to increase a person's life force? Orochimaru frowned as he remembered the potency of the first Hokage cell. Maybe if we had some of Senju Hoshirama's cells. But since we don't, it isn't really. He was interrupted when a severed arm was thrown at him. There you go, one human arm made of Senju Hoshirama cells. Probably at least. It was unlikely to be anything else, seeing that if you added chakra, a piece of it turned into trees. Orochimaru blinked at the severed arm before shrugging it off. He wasn't sure where the blonde had gotten it, but apparently everyone wanted a piece of the first. I will need some equipment from one of my laboratories. We'll each make a shadow clone and have them get it. It's too dangerous to go in person, with Madara skulking around. Orochimaru nodded. That made sense. The idea of Madara Uchiha being alive again, now sporting the Rinnegan, and also the Mokiton, intending to enslave the world in an illusion. Well, that also creeped him out. That completely derailed his plan. to become immortal and discover the truth of the world. Aside from helping me figure out a way to save Zana, you will also teach me the Edo Tensei. There are secrets about that technique that I must know. Orochimaru nodded in resignation and a bit of intrigue. Resignation because he knew that he couldn't really protest and say no. Intrigue because he wanted to know what kind of secret techniques the blonde was talking about. Anything else, he asked. He hated the situation, but he could find nowhere out of it at the moment. The seal on his forehead throbbed in pain every time he had a thought of escaping or trying to kill Naruto. The level of pain that the seal could inflict on him was ungodly, not something pure willpower could fight off. He will either need to see through to the end or wait for opportunity to get out of it. Well, I still want that tongue extension techniques in Naruto. Orochimaru had to resist the urge to roll his eyes. Uzumaki was turned out to be a far more perverted version of Jiraiya, that was for sure. Fine, I will teach it to you. Good. Now, let's get to work, said Naruto. Time skip. But what do you mean that Naruto isn't a Konoha shinobi anymore? Fukasaku asked Jiraiya, as they were currently in Mount Miyaboku, as they were having an important discussion. Jiraiya did tell them most of the important things that go on in the world, but he didn't have any scheduled time when he did this. He just told them when he came around. And Naruto being a missing nin, he didn't think that was important enough for them to know. So he never came by as Naruto became a missing nin. He just isn't. Some stuff happened that forced him to become a missing nin. Jiraiya explained awkwardly. What kind of stuff? Asked Fukasaku. People just didn't become missing nin for any old reason. He was afraid that it had to do with the reason for his visit. The explanation of the Kyuubi being his wife, well, made him feel a bit better that it wasn't because of him. Though it did bring some other disturbing questions to light. I see. And how long has he been in contact with the Kyuubi? Asked Fukasaku. I don't know, said Jiraiya, but I think it's time you told me what this is all about. Fukasaku sighed as he would have to explain himself, saying that he wanted Jiraiya help on this. We did not remove Naruto as a toad summoner because he'd taken such an aggressive senjutsu style. The reason why we did it is because of how he did it and what it actually might mean. Maybe you should explain a bit more, Pa, said Jiraiya, as he did not understand. He adapted the natural energy that he took from Mount Miyaboku into a different personality, if you must say. That shouldn't be possible. Something to better suit him. By doing that, he opened the door to possibilities that were long gone. That is why we were so scared and angry. Who's we? Jiraiya said. The summoning clans. All of them. Jiraiya was shocked for all the summoning clans to agree on something that was really rare. Most of them at best was neutral with each other. For them to interact with each other was, well, rather surprising. As far as he knew, none of them were actually enemies, but they didn't really get along. Well, Manda and Jambunta were enemies, but the both of them were rather cranky. Not that anyone got along too well with Manda. He was just cranky, not even the other snakes. What kind of possibilities should be so bad that all summoning clans would agree on one thing? Asked Jiraiya. Fukasaku sighed as he was reluctant to talk about it. There was a reason why Senjutsu was so limited to human, the information on it. And he didn't really want to reveal it. But he had to. To explain that, I'm gonna have to give you a history lesson. This happened a long time ago. I was barely out of my tadpole time. Wow. You mean a really long time ago? Fukasaku glared at Jiraiya as he shut his mouth. The world wasn't so different back then than it was now. But there wasn't any hidden villages. People were still using chakra to kill each other though. The Senjus and Uchiha were the largest clan, and they were at each other's throats all the time. So it was like the time before the formation of hidden villages, Jiraiya said. Pretty much, said Fukasaku. The dynamic didn't change when Senju, Kagami, was born. But when he did, became 10 years old, the Senjus found out about a bloodline that they didn't even know of. The Mokitan. Jiraiya was confused. But the first Mokitan user, he said. That was because summoning clans suppressed his bloodline as much as possible. If it hadn't been for that, there would have been at least a dozen Mokitan users before Hashirama. But why? Jiraiya said. Why would they suppress someone's bloodline? As he was confused. As he knew what Fukasaku said when he meant suppress. That means kill. Fukasaku sighed, as he knew that it was one of the nicer things the summoning animals had done. The Uchiha had caught wind of his new bloodline and sent assassins after him, but they failed to kill him. They did get his parents, however. After that, the Senju clan came together and trained the boy as best as they could. Eventually, we heard of the boy and his remarkable ability to control plants. The snakes reached him first and asked him to join their contract, which he did. Why the snakes? They got to him first, said Fukasaku. The boy was remarkably gifted, learning the abilities taught by the snakes, especially Senjutsu. That was where the problem started, unfortunately. What do you mean? What problem? Jiraiya asked a frown. Ever since he saw his parents killed, he had been solemn and moody, only cheering up when there was something good to learn. Less than a year after he mastered Senjutsu, he learned how to reverse the power of the Mokidan. Instead of giving life, he learned how to take it. And I don't mean by killing. He learned how to drain out life from plants, and eventually, from the very ground. But why would he do that, Jiraiya asked, as he heard the grim tone in Fukazaku's voice. Because he discovered that it would make him live forever. Also, make him stronger. He reduced several eras into wasteland before the snakes called him back to the cave. He was their favorite student. They knew about the darkness ever since his parents were killed, but they just didn't care. Just like they don't care if Orochimaru is evil or not, but they wouldn't make him suck the life out of the very earth. So they betrayed him, poisoned him when he had his guard down. Just like that, they stabbed him in the back so easily, said Jiraiya. The snakes were very pragmatic, and it was the right thing to do in this case. He would have probably kept on draining the life forces of everything with his greed, and their action prevented a disaster. Ever since then, the snakes have been sending their newborn to test the Senjus for the Mokidan potential. And if they do, they poison them with a toxin to make sure the Mokidan stay forgotten. Then, what about the Hashirama? They overlooked him somehow. Don't ask me how, because I don't know. By the time his Mokidan had awakened, he was much too powerful and observant to be taken out like that. So we all had to settle, hoping that everything would be alright. We all panicked when he learned Senjutsu by himself, and he was much more powerful than the first Mokidan user. But we all were happy that he never learned how to drain the life out of plants. Jiraiya looked quite stunned, but he was also very angry. The fact that Naruto learned how to convert natural energy into life force isn't as nearly as bad as that, but it's also a huge cause for concern. He might not have the Mokidan, but we're still worried that he will learn how to drain the life from living things. That is why we removed him from Toad Scroll. We didn't want him to learn anything more about Senjutsu from us, especially with that prophecy the old geezer made about one of your students saving or destroying the world, said Fukazaku with a sigh. How dare you, said Jiraiya, as he glared at the small toad. None of you had any right to decide something like that. You were so damn scared of someone repeating what this first Mokidan user did, that you felt it was okay to kill every single baby with the potential of learning the Mokidan. He knew that it was the snakes that actually done it, but Fukazaku was clearly agreeing with it. We couldn't risk something like that happening again, said Fukazaku. If it did, then it could have meant the extinction of all life force on the continent. And we didn't know if you could take one of them down with surprise like that. The fact that Hashirama Senju managed to learn Senjutsu by himself proved how powerful they are. If he had went down that same dark path, none of us could have stopped Hashirama. That wasn't your decision to decide. You don't get to make calls like that because you're scared that something bad might happen. Jiraiya said furiously, as he couldn't believe the kind elders that he knew were able to do something like that. You weren't there. You have no idea how close the world came to be destroyed. If it wasn't for a lucky break, the elemental nation would probably be a wasteland right now, said Fukazaku, trying to keep his temper in check. He knew that it was only natural for Jiraiya to be angry at what he heard. He argued as well when he was younger until he was shown what happened after the life-draining technique was finished. There was a reason why the Ring Country was a desert. Despite the 100 years that went by until then, it stayed as a desert, as the plain, dried up land did not sustain water anymore, so that they could have plant life. And I suppose you would have killed Naruto too, if you suspected that he could do something similar. Yes, we would have. And we would have been right to do it, said Fukazaku. He's already attacked the snakes and taken all their natural energy. How long do you think it will take him to drain in life from the living? Just send me back to Konoha. This conversation is over, Jiraiya said. He didn't want to be around here right now, unless he might start to throw fire ninjutsu around. How angry he was. Time skip. Jiraiya was nervous and uncertain, not something that was common for him. The cause of this feeling was Tsunade. It had only taken him a day to man up and told her what his talks with Fukazaku came to. She had rage, busted things. Luckily, she didn't destroy everything in the vicinity. She nearly summoned Katsu so that she could just punch a giant slug, which was completely unheard of. After all those Senjus were at least related to her, and if they were not, they were still a part of her clan. Assassination and babies. Tsunade was furious. Not to mention it happened to her clan, she was more angry. But now she was no longer raging. Now she was drunk off her ass. Really drunk. It's been a long while since he saw her so drunk. But she wasn't angry drunk, she was just drunk and a bit sedated. Stupid summons shit. She could barely properly say the words. Yeah, those bastards, Jiraiya said awkwardly, as she couldn't form the words properly. He didn't know how to deal with this kind of Tsunade. Shizune was the only one that knew how to deal with it. Even if they are, right about Naruto, said Tsunade. Just not the way they think. What do you mean? Said Jiraiya. Oh yeah, I haven't told you. Naruto is insane. Yes, everyone knows that Naruto is insane, said Jiraiya. Nah. Not that way, said Tsunade. Tsunade, how is my godson insane? Asked Jiraiya. Well, you see, he was all alone ever since he was born. No one wanted him for nothing because of Zena. And she was the only one there to take care of him, so he got insane to do anything for her. And I mean anything at lol. Tsunade face planted before she picked back herself up. Anything, she said. Jiraiya frowned as he got what Tsunade was saying, and that idea wasn't pretty. Do you think he would hurt anyone if it meant helping her? Tsunade burst out laughing, like Jiraiya said something really hilarious. He would throw them in gravy and throw them with the lions. If it mean... Tsunade burst out laughing. Helping her, she said, as she tried to calm herself, like Jiraiya said the most funniest thing in the world. She then started to frown as she tried to remember something important. Wait, not supposed to tell. Patient doctor confidentiality. Jiraiya smirked. How she managed to say that last word and mess everything else up? Well, imagine that, Jiraiya said. The summons probably had a good reason to be worried. Honestly, he was finding it hard not to think they had it coming. Those sneak bastards. They got what they deserve after killing innocent babies who couldn't even talk or walk yet. Yeah, me told him where to find Orochimaru, said Tsunade, as her head hit the table as she started to snore. Jiraiya sighed. At least that explained how Naruto got to Orochimaru cave in the first place. Though, how he managed to make Orochimaru take him there was... Jiraiya paused. Wait, the Hiroshin. Huh. Yeah. That technique was like a cheat on stuffs that should be hard. Like taking your girlfriend all over the world when you could just... And you were there with your girlfriend, while some people had to make their way the long way around. Damn you, Minato, said Jiraiya. Remember in the past. Time skip. Naruto frowned as he examined the results of the latest Edo Tensei experiment. The man was just standing there, doing absolutely nothing. Then again, he wasn't capable of much, considering that he was a random bandit in life. There was various criminals and missing names to use as sacrifice for the Edo Tensei, so that wasn't a problem. Naruto was fascinated by the regeneration of the Edo Tensei, but it turns out not to be regeneration at all. The soul that was anchored to the body merely provided a blueprint to the body to be constructed that way, so it wouldn't collapse. The life force of the one that was sacrificed was a thing that was anchoring the body fully together. The undead bodies were not alive after all, which is why they need a sacrifice summon the dead. It kept the souls anchored to the earth. The mystery of infinite chakra was also hidden in the Edo Tensei. The stronger the spiritual energy of the sacrifice, it kept on replenishing the soul with chakra to fuse into the body. Over and over, it was unending. That is why, the stronger the soul of the person that was sacrificed, the stronger amount of chakra capability they could use. Which meant that it would be rather stupid to use civilians or genins. If you were trying to summon someone of Hokage level power, they would be greatly weakened. You needed a powerful shinobi if you wanted someone to come back to their, well, most dangerous form. Someone with so much life force that they could re-anchor the body to bring it at its prime. Orochimaru was shocked when he discovered that little tidbit, as Naruto had laughed. And Naruto wondered what the hell the second Hokage was drinking when he came up with this shit. The only reason Naruto wanted to learn it because he wanted to turn into an Edo Tensei. But he wanted to do it in a way where you don't have to be dead. And he wanted to have this sense of pain as well. Because without pain, well, sex would be really pointless. Because unlike some people like Orochimaru, he actually wanted to enjoy his immortality. He was trying to do the impossible, to keep his soul inside his body. Even if it was blasted to dust, it will not go on to the pure world, it will simply reform. The real tricky part was to make sure that his body would pull itself together if that ever happened. He pretended not to notice Orochimaru, who was basically drooling at the idea to think about that possibility of being immortal that way. But Naruto was thinking if he did that, Zena won't be able to sustain herself anymore. He was going to practice on people because there was no way something like that would go right on the first try. It may be unwise to attempt such a thing while I'm inside you as well, said Zana. Because you might end up being permanently stuck in me, said Naruto, as he already thought of that. Yes, we have no idea how something like that would affect us. It will be best to postpone it until I get free, she said. Agreed, said Naruto. That left a small amount of options. Talking to Orochimaru, the reason why him and Karen was going through Waterfall Country was because there was talks about people being eaten and going missing randomly, and rumors about a demon that they've seen in the night. They didn't know what it was about, but Naruto realized that Jashin must be out and about doing what he was doing. He had sent clones to go and investigate. Unfortunately, Madara has been hunting them down and destroying them, no doubt trying to force him to come out in the open. The first one he tried to use some word technique on, but it did not work. Judging by the way that Madara had placed his hand on the clone head, it probably was a mind reading technique, but it wasn't working on the clone. If Madara had succeeded in that, they would have been in deep crap. It was unfortunate, but his clones could not hide their chakra the way that he could. That they even managed to get any equipment from one of Orochimaru's labs was a small miracle. Speaking of that lab equipment, Naruto focused to the right. As a small sapling grew from the earth, Senju Hoshirama cells had integrated well with him, and he got the Mokiton ability. The man life force was truly amazing, as both him and Zana knew that it was because of the man Senjutsu style, his own Senjutsu style. If the first hadn't died, that was something that was puzzling Naruto as well. How did the man exactly die? Who killed him? They knew that the man would have lived for about 200 to 300 years because of the life force that he had. He couldn't do anything extravagant with the Mokiton yet, but it bought him enough time to master it, he hoped. Time skip, Madara was brooding as he was on his throne like chair. Like always, it was because of Naruto, as he had no idea where the blonde was. Rates of trying to find out his hideouts were badly neglecting him. After all, the boy had the Harashin, and he could teleport from his hideout and go back there without revealing the location, and that had Madara frustrated. The blonde was being very cautious, since he heard from Zetsu that the blonde was very, unruly in a battle. So why was he being so cautious now? He was truly afraid, it seems. He needed to force Uzumaki out in the open. I guess I'm going to Konoha after all, he thought to himself. It certainly wasn't how he operated, but as Uzumaki had already shown, danger methods were better than easier ones. It would also serve as a nice bit of revenge against Uzumaki for bringing up Mito the last time they spoke. He hated when that woman was mentioned. It wasn't that he hated Mito herself. Her name simply brought up bitter memories that he didn't like to think of. He had actually encountered her before Hoshirama did. When she arrived at Konoha, he was puzzled to what she was doing there, and he asked if she wanted to be shown around. He thought that she was some dignitary or someone that came there to look at the newly built Konoha. They ended up spending the day together, and Madara had honestly taken quite a liking to her. That was the first time he ever truly liked a woman in his entire life. Despite her clan and, that fiery red head, she hadn't been annoying and insufferable. She was easy to get along with, and like other women, she wasn't intimidated by his reputation. But 2 days later, he learned that she was to be wed to Hoshirama, and that his rival had known her for years. He never told anyone about his interests, but Uzumaki had somehow insulted him with the truth. It was only after he calmed down after that he realized that he loathed Uzumaki, as he pissed him off just as Hoshirama. Time skip. Naruto had snapped up as he felt one of the Irish kunais that he gave to the girl was thrown. Stifling his urge to teleport there immediately, he made a clone and had it do the teleporting. Teleporting into the unknown when someone was calling was a really bad idea, especially when you were a hunted man, even if it was one of his girls calling. If everything was fine, he would teleport there himself after the clone dispersed and tell him what was going on. When the clone arrived, he looked at the scene in front of him completely shocked. It was worse than he feared. Tsunade, and worse, Ayam, was lying on the ground, and he could clearly see that they were not breathing. Sakura, Hinata, Tenten, they were still alive, but clearly exhausted. They didn't look like they were in a long battle. It was like they were drained of their chakra. Slightly behind them was Madara Uchiha, with his gun B, crossed over his back in his red armor. He scowled angrily, as he thought that Uzumaki would come personally if this woman that he was friendly with was threatened. But apparently he was wrong. Zetsu had told him that the civilian girl was the one that Naruto was most close to, and Tsunade was a Hokage. That is why he used the human path on them. But no luck, they had no idea where he was, and their souls were ripped out after he used the human path. The other three, he left alive, because he needed them as hostage. It wasn't that hard to get them all, He suppressed his chakra as he made his way to the village and gathered them. After sucking out their chakra, he just brought them towards his outskirts training ground. Honestly, Konoha's standards had dropped. Well, it was dead of a night, but still, the standards are really low. Tsunade had to put up a bit of fight, but she knew nothing of his abilities, so it was rather easy to use a human path on her. Through her, he learned of the Irish kunai on Ayam. Yes, and now Uzumaki was here. The other three, they weren't even powerful enough to give him a challenge. So you won't even come in person to save these girls. How heartless of you, Uzumaki, said Madara mockingly. He was hoping to use the shadows he had in Limbo to restrain the former Jinjuki, but that would be a waste on a simple clone. The shadow clone said nothing as he looked at Ayam, his dear big sister, who didn't have a single mean bone in her body. She was dead. Dead. Because some idiot didn't like the world and wanted to create his own. You killed her. Naruto said numbly, as he still hadn't come to terms with the fact. I wouldn't have done so if you had simply given me the Gedo statue. Give it to me now and she would be returned to you in the infinite dream. The words snapped one of his thoughts. He could fall apart later. Right now there were still 3 girls he had to save. If I do that, I'll just lose my wife as well. You will lose her either way, and if you do not give it to me, you will also lose these other 3. Just accept the infinite Tsukuyomi, and you will have it all back. At the moment, Naruto was stumped, as he had no idea what to do. He was insisting on taking away their ability to choose. That is the very reason why he did not be more forceful to get them out of Konoha. And now, this. Tenten, Sakura, and Hinata struggled onto their knees as they recovered enough chakra to do that. All 3 girls saw how conflicted the Shadow Clone looked, and it didn't take them long to figure out the situation. They knew if Naruto thought that he could save them, he would already be here. He always threw himself into battle without a care in the world, but this was different. He had to think of Zana now, and he was weakened. He had no hope of defeating Madara with his life force being sucked out. Tsunade had explained to them, as she had blurted out to Jiraiya in her drunken stupor, that Naruto would do anything for Zana, anything at all. His mind was set that way, as they knew who he would choose if he was forced to. They exchanged glances. They knew the situation could only have one possible end. I can't do that, said Naruto as he clenched his teeth. If he gave up the Gedo statue, he wouldn't even be saving them. They would all be trapped into the infinite Tsukuyomi. Madara raised the eyebrow. Seems that the Uzumaki was set on his course. So not even their deaths will move you to act. What about their pain then, he said. If you do not give me the Gedo statue, I will use Tsukuyomi to torment them until you do. As Naruto growled angrily, tried to find some way out of this. The 3 girls heard that, as they thought this might be the way out. Hinata especially didn't like to be used against someone that she cared about, as she had went to Tenten and asked her to make a seal for her that could be placed on her heart, that could be activated to kill her without any hope of recovery. Tenten had protested as well, but after Naruto had visited and told him about Madara, she placed on herself as well. They told Sakura about it, as she only thought about it for a few minutes, as she didn't want to be used against Naruto as leverage, just in case his world might turn to, well, crap, in case he chose to pick them and help them out. So she asked to be placed with as well. It was like the kill switch in the Cagebird seal. They didn't tell Tsunade about it because she wouldn't agree, and Ayam was a civilian, so she wouldn't be able to use it. As the 3 of them knew that Madara wouldn't just leave Konoha if he didn't get what he wanted. But none of that mattered anymore though, because he was here, and he would use them as leverage to get what he wanted, asking her to remember what Naruto did for her, to cause him pain and guilt because he wasn't able to save them. She would not make that happen again. As he came to her, forcing her to call him Big Brother, out of a kind gesture, when she thought that he was nothing worth living for, when she was down in the slumps. But he changed all of that. With his help, she was able to change a lot. She thought nothing more would come after it after that day, but at the force of death, when they were in that tower, he hugged her, like she had been his little sister for the longest time now. He encouraged her and helped her so much. She knew he was always busy with training, Fuinjutsu or something else, but he always helped them. He always helped her. Thanks to him, her family was united. Her cousin was back to his old self. The Cagebird seal was gone, and she was a respected Kunoichi, and she was proud of herself. If it wasn't for him, she would have probably looked for a heroic death on some kind of mission, just to get away from it all. Tenten was having the same thoughts. Naruto offered to teach her, despite being a genin at the same time. He had no obligation to do so, but yet he sat down with her and showed her the basic of Fuinjutsus. And the more advanced she got, the more advanced things he taught her. He left her a book with all of his notes, everything that he learned up to this point. She owed him a lot and she refused to be used to hurt him like this. She hoped that he would find the Kusanagi and remember her when he used it in the future. And she could not make Madara learn about the Codex of Seals, as that book could help him how to use space-time ninjutsu. Yeah, she couldn't allow that. She had rigged it to be destroyed if she didn't pass it on before she died. As Sakura knew that she was nothing more than a nuisance at the start, a little girl playing ninja, so that she could impress a boy that didn't care about her at all. He was harsh at the beginning, telling her all the awful things that could happen if she did not prepare herself. She hated him for that time, but it also snapped her out of her stupidity. She knew that Naruto never liked Sasuke, but Naruto stood up for him to be buried as a Konoha ninja instead of a traitor, just for her sake. He did everything, he was so nice. After, she started to take everything seriously, and she wouldn't make herself be used as something to hurt him. But now that she was facing her death, she wondered, she should have taken Xana up on that offer to have sex with Naruto while Xana was in his body. As she wondered, was it really as great as Naruto made it seem? She snorted, as her virginity seemed small now, insignificant, seeing that she was about to die. So her first time would be with a demon who was using her male teammate bot to do the deed. Big whoop. At least it would make her laugh seeing the look on Ino's face. The three of them looked at each other, as they all were in agreement. They didn't want to die, but they didn't want to be used as leverage. Madara was too powerful for them to escape. It would hurt him to see them die, but not as much as if he knew that Madara was torturing them to force him to give up the Gedo statue. There were no good choices left here, so they could at least do the least possible harm. Hinata reached out as she squeezed her hands, as they prepared to activate the seals on their heart. As, out of the three of them, she was the one that knew how something like this could be used against them. They would have preferred to kill Madara, but to how easy the man had took them down, they stood no chance. As Naruto knew that something bad was gonna happen, when the three girls had a regretful look on their face, they all mouthed the words, "I love you." They then spasm as their eyes closed. A powerful lightning charge burned out their hearts, killing them. Madara didn't stop them as he didn't know that this was what they were gonna do, and he had no time to act when they activated seals. Madara frowned as he stepped away from the bodies. As the clone rushed over, he could resurrect them, Madara thought to himself. But the price of using the Samsara of the heaven and life was too much for hostages, not to mention they would activate that suicide seal again. Since it would appear I no longer have any leverage, I'll be taking my leave now. But first, a little goodbye present for Konoha. A three-sided Susanoo flared to life around him, each of them holding a hand sign. Heavenly obstacle, quaking star. The clone looked up at the meteor falling towards Konoha. Theoretically, the original Naruto can come and smash that to pieces before it destroyed Konoha. But he wouldn't do that, for a change. He wasn't thinking about the fact that this was what Madara wanted. He was just in too much shock to see all of his loved ones die, to care about the people that were gonna be obliterated in the village. There were a few of them that didn't deserve it, but he gathered the women, the five of them, as he turned to look at Madara. "You should have stayed dead, Madara. I promise you, the next time you will see me, I'll be a god, and death won't be enough to save you from me anymore." Madara scoffed as the clone teleported away. He simply rose in the air and protected himself with a gravitational force shield. With those three girls dead now, he couldn't force Uzumaki out, and the blonde would not come out for a rage if he did not come for the three girls. As much as he didn't like it, he would have to wait. But he doubted that the blonde would become powerful enough to face him soon enough. His own personal search had turned up nothing at all. That was the main reason why he's destroying Konoha. The sudden power vacuum would spark the fourth great Shinobi War, as every other country would try to pick up the pieces. Perhaps the chaos of war would force Uzumaki out, as Uzumaki's final words still remain in his mind. To become a god. Well, that certainly won't happen. Time skip. Naruto stood in front of the 5 graves that he had dug to bury the body of his girls. The clone had brought them back and dispersed. Tsunade would have probably tried to punch him if she heard him calling her one of his girls, but secretly, she would be pleased about it. No woman that went through the effort of looking young would not want people to admire her, no matter what. A full 24 hours has passed, and now it was dark again. Karin had merely given him a hug as she realized he wanted to be alone. Orochimaru just looked at Tsunade's body, thinking that his other teammate might have been crushed by a meteor. He had stayed quiet though, feeling that Naruto's temper might snap, as Naruto hadn't moved from the graves since then. He wasn't too upset about Tsunade's death. She had lived her life, and actually wanted to die for a long while. She was reunited with her brother and the man that she loved. At least she was finding peace there. Zana always taught him to not think of death as something terrible, and he never had a problem with that kind of mindset. But the other four were still so young, and there was so much for them to do. Ayam just started a family, and she was thinking of giving her younger son a sibling. She was so excited to have seen her son grow, but Madara took that chance away from her. At the very least, her family had joined her right after, regardless how morbid and heartless that sounded. Tenten, Sakura, and Hinata had been younger, but they had been soldiers. They were prepared for the possibility of dying, even if they didn't want to die yet. He just hated that they died in front of him, and he was too helpless to do anything about it. They made the only choice they had, he knew that, but he still hated it. Why did they have to die? Why couldn't I save them, he said. He knew what the answer was, but he just couldn't shake off the horrible mood. Because you were not strong enough to do so, Zana said. It was cruel, but it was the truth. It still hurt though. It hurt even just to hear those words. That he wasn't strong enough to save them. They are safe now in a world where pain can no longer reach them. It is only you that suffer from their deaths. Grieve for losing them, but do not feel sorry for them. They died without fear to protect you because they loved you. Be proud of them for that, and remember them and their courage. As Naruto raised the Kusanagi in front of him, he found its seal on Tenten's belt. He elected to keep it, then burn it with her. He was sure that she wanted to be used, than just becoming rusting in the earth. What Zana said was true. They wouldn't have wanted to mope for their death. He knew the Edo Tensei could have brought them back, but it was a terrible idea, even though he just wanted to say goodbye at least. All five of them would have recoiled in horror, knowing that he sacrificed 5 ninjas just to do that. It was better to leave them to their rest, ignorant of the inhuman acts that he was committing. As for Madara, he would take everything from him. He would take away his dreams, his goal, his power, his life. He would take away his chance of finding peace in death. Everything. He didn't know how he would do the last one yet, but he would make sure that the man suffer. If it was possible to pull that soul away from his eternal rest, then he could probably stop it from going there in the first place, and that he will find a way to do, as he felt Zana approve. Yes, he was indeed gonna make that man suffer. But guys, we end episode right here. If you want the next part to do, like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn on that bell notification to stay posted. But I'm off now, see you guys soon. Peace.